let's go out and let's digitize. Let's learn how to manage data. Let's integrate a quality system into one place. Not
Mhm.
only is it super practical, but it's effective in selling what we do.
Welcome to the Manufacturing Transformed podcast, where we dive deep into the world of manufacturing and uncover the transformational journeys of companies that are powered by ProShop. Get ready to explore the stories behind the machines, the people, and the innovation shaping the future of this industry. Welcome to Manufacturing Transformed. Real shops, real stories.
Bryan and I go way back, and what's cool about Lafarge and Egge is they are primarily tube bending and NADCAP welding. They do a little bit of machining, but not a ton. They have two different facilities that are about 3 to 4 hours apart from each other. They are on one ProShop system. They push data, from one site to the other. They share work, so they bend tubes up in Everett, north of Seattle, and then they weld them down near Portland. It's a very sophisticated business. Lots of quality flow downs, lots of very compliant requirements. They do that all with ProShop. And, I love when Bryan says they replaced probably close to 10 different systems when they put ProShop into the two facilities. So it shows that ProShop is not just for machine shops only. This is a great success story of a very highly regulated, complex business that's doing great things with ProShop. So let's get into the conversation and go meet Bryan.
Bryan, welcome to the Manufacturing Transform podcast. It's good to have you here.
Hey, thanks a lot, Paul. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come spend some time with us.
You got it.
So
You got it.
you and I have known each other for many years, even pre-ProShop, back when you were working in the aerospace industry in the Seattle area, and we were a vendor for you guys.
That's
So
right.
we go. Do you remember what year actually that might have been that we first connected?
That would have been probably 2007 or 8.
Yeah.
And of course, you were
Okay.
legends in the Bellingham area.
There's not that many
And
shops in the Bellingham
yeah,
area,
yeah.
so
I mean, I always have fond memories of meeting you and touring your shop, obviously being impressed with the Kaizen environment. But,
yeah, that was
then
that was all Kelsey.
the saxophone mouthpieces you produced back
That
then.
was that was a really fun project. Yeah,
That was awesome. Yeah. So I really, for me, that was some of my first exposure to some of the machine shops in aerospace.
right.
So I really enjoyed that. And yeah, that was back when we met. So I mean, hey,
It's
we're
not
over
quite 20
20
years, but
years. Yeah,
yeah,
or yeah, getting there. Sorry, we're
getting
getting there.
close, getting
Yeah,
close. 18
yeah,
years. All
that's
right.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
we both have more gray in our beards. We probably had no gray in our beards back
Yeah.
when we
I
met.
I don't even
I
think I
didn't even
had a
have a
beard.
beard. You're right.
That's
I didn't
right.
either.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Oh
Northwest does
boy,
that to you, I think. Yeah. So
that's right. I have moss growing on me and gray in my beard now. So.
yeah, well, I hear you. It's all good.
All right. Well, let's so people know a little bit. We didn't talk about really procurement supply chain, but let's go back and tell the audience a little bit about your background and how you ended up getting involved with Lafarge and Egge.
Yeah, sure. Really quick. I'm a small town Kansas kid. I grew up working as a paper boy at age 12. Worked at a grocery
Nice.
store. Did, some like field labor and things like that back in the day. And then I joined the army after high school and I moved off to the Northwest. And
Mhm.
after the army, I did some college in Kansas, earned my degree in technology management, really with emphasis in manufacturing. Funny enough, Pitt State University, where I did my undergrad, has a plastics engineering technology program similar to Western
Oh,
Washington.
cool.
So,
Yeah.
I was really interested in the technology center there. I studied that, and then I did my MBA directly after. So I really loved the Northwest. Moved back out to Seattle and got a job in aerospace. I took the role as a supply chain analyst. It was actually a commodity leader role, so my intent was to get involved in manufacturing. Um, I ended up getting into supply chain and really made a career there. Worked for a couple of publicly traded companies. Got to travel the world, see some shops, audit shops. Really drive more expertise in manufacturing, or at least a generalist expertise. So around, let's see, 2013, I decided to start my own company. and I wanted to basically find a business partner and buy a business and uh, really do an owner operator type setup
Mhm.
for a small manufacturing company. Um, Around that same time, my wife, she owns her own business. It was doing pretty well. We had a kid, and I perhaps serendipitously met Paul, one of the owners of Lafarge Egge, and I was pitching my business to him. Enjoying coffee for about 3 months together.
Mhm.
Just sort of getting to know each other, and then eventually he proposed that I work for L&E. And for me at the time, it was a really good trade-off to
Mhm.
take the pressure away from starting my own thing and really getting into a sort of non-greenfield established aerospace supplier, which was kind of my dream in the first place, and really get a chance to lead and grow it. And so that's how it happened for me. It was a lot of networking. It was a lot
Mhm.
of believing, in taking chances, especially with, in my positions in supply chain. I did quite a bit. I covered electronics, machining, strategy, deep analytics. So it all prepared me really well for my role at L&E, which I took in 2014. So obviously I've been there. This is going to be my 12th year,
Yeah.
and we've came a long way, and it's an exciting time to be there. So anyway, that's the past. How I got
Very good.
here. Yeah,
Yeah, tell us what LNE specializes in.
sure. So we're really a tube shop, to put it simply. But if you our products are really high pressure, small diameter tube assemblies, sort of our niche. We of course produce all ranges of pressures. I mean, obviously we can produce tubes that handle just about any environment, and we test internally to 30,000 psi.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's high pressure.
we
What
yeah we
applications need that much pressure?
so there's an auto frottage process, or at least it's defined auto frottage.
What does that mean?
So you're gonna run pressures of greater than 10,000 psi roughly. It's going to really compress the wall of the tube and increase tensile strength, but it's also proving out the tube at, I'm not sure what the multiple is off operating pressure, but it's
Mhm.
really just reinforcing the tube wall. And so it's
Wow.
in essence a forming process. Yeah. So
Okay. Got it.
yeah, so we can test up to 30,000 psi. I think we've had a couple applications go that high. But most of the time in auto frottage, we're seeing something like, 12,000 plus. So
Still a
that's
lot of pressure.
a lot of pressure, one of our specialties. And then, so, obviously with tube assemblies and joining, we do internal and external swaging in house. We use obviously welding, so fusion welding, orbital welding, um, TIG, very minimal MIG, but in general, just about any alloy. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it all comes together to form a high mix, low volume shop. Even though I don't like to use low volume in there, we can we can
Because you
handle
want
high
the
volume.
higher you
Yeah,
like the higher
yeah.
volume,
We're more
of
like high
course.
mix, medium to high volume, right? That's what we
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
So we don't
And you
mind the
have
mix.
a number of CNC machines too.
We do, and we have actually three. So two Mazaks, horizontal Mazak 6800 with a fourth axis.
Mhm.
Then we have a Mazak 5800. Then we have a Matsura vertical three axis. So, um, and that's maybe a part of this story of us is we used to have 9 mills, and part of our learning experience really in aerospace was trying to integrate a machine shop. We faced a lot of challenges there, and since then,
Mhm.
we've been
Mhm.
able to really rebuild with minimal equipment and really develop our tooling capability. So we're less about producing, say, build to print machine parts. I mean, we don't necessarily compete well in that space, and
Right.
we work with a lot of machine shops on their tubing needs. So we end up using the shop for more of a tooling work center, and we're doing some pretty awesome work with check fixtures and 3D printed components.
Hmm.
risers, tube paths, etc., that we can see them and inspect and use. So, the machine shop's really been value add for that.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, one of the questions is what makes your shop unique, and you just described a bunch of things that are that are very unique. Now
Yeah,
you have your sort of Everett, Seattle location, but then you have a more of a welding only shop down near Portland, right?
that's right, Clackamas. So we bought Clackamas Tool Welding in 2012, so 2 years before I arrived.
Okay.
I knew them. I knew them from the industry, just being an ad cap welding shop, and that was really for us. Where could we vertically integrate um, successfully and within reason in terms of our budget? And
Hmm.
Clackamas in 2012 was a great acquisition. It really just added what we needed for a long time, which is just welding and the ability to join fittings to tubes. And so, yeah, so they actually serve the whole industry though. They're not just Lafarge and Egge, tube welder. They
Mm-hmm.
have their own, value stream. They have their own clients. Obviously, a
Yeah.
pro shop user as well,
Yeah.
and they sustain a different QMS than us, really
Hmm.
because they're a special processor
Right.
and
They
we're
have their
really more
NADCAP.
fabrication. That's right. Yeah. NADCAP D14426, also, approved by several primes and OEMs throughout the industry. So,
Hmm.
really great little shop. We're trying to grow that shop as well. I think over last year, they grew at about 15% in terms of total revenue. So,
Nice. That's
we're
good.
happy to see that,
Solid.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Very good.
the service revenue really helps us diversify, where we're, um, you know, obviously materials in aerospace over the past 5 years, let's say, have inflated quite a bit, or
Hmm.
at least maybe they're starting to calm down a little. But I think anytime we can get some service revenue uh, where there's no material buying, that's just
Hmm.
really good diversification on our line. So
Yeah, helps with gross margins too.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Very cool. So, maybe share a little bit about what was, what struggles you guys had, what was going on in management and shop, just organizing the shop, scheduling, what have you, that led you to decide you needed to look at some different software, an ERP or something to help run the company with.
absolutely. So for me, coming into the business, I'm really focused on data, not so much because I want to do the analysis paralysis path
Hmm.
and look busy. It's really where's the insight, what's happening in the shop. I think for me, taking the company, I came from a couple of larger aerospace companies in terms of my work path. So I was used to seeing suppliers really, I won't say all over the world. I did that quite a bit, but really domestically. And when I first came into the company, I realized it to me, it didn't really get to the point where I wanted it to be yet. It didn't show well. It
Mm.
was a small facility. There's paper everywhere. And when I say paper, I'm talking about drawings. I'm talking about work orders, work instructions, um, in terms of even several machine parameters for setup, things like that, all paper. So on top of really wanting meaningful data out of the company, say through our ERP. We also had just a general feel that didn't seem organized. It didn't seem lean and efficient.
Mhm.
And so we really started. I mean, we started from square one, and I can. I mean, it's sort of funny, but um, if you went into Lafarge and Egge at that time, maybe you did it with me at one point, and I showed you some of the tooling that we had for
Mhm.
tubing that was from the 50s and 60s. 707, 727 tooling.
Yeah.
Um, made with wood and Bondo. And I noticed that at our company too, same thing. Where we were building tools that one of our tools for bending, it was a funky bend with a really large radius, so it was more of a roll. But we had a wooden Bondo form die that you put on a forklift, and you got it up to the height where you could really crank that tube around the die.
Oh my gosh, just body weight, just leaning
Yeah,
into
just
it.
body weight. Yeah. So I think, for us, it was just growing from that cottage industry mom and pop. And I'm not going to say that Lafarge and Egge isn't incredible. I mean, it's been around since 1962.
That's some
So
history. Yeah,
doing
it's
this
a
kind of
legacy.
work, and there's a lot of know-how and a lot of expertise there before my time. And
Mhm,
so, for me, it was like, uh, and for our team, how do we capture all of this know-how, all this scrappiness, and really, it was an industrious team. They got a lot done with a little. How are we going to empower them? And I think really just going paperless for us was a very legitimate first step in capex. And
mhm,
how do you build a 5-year plan? Well, we can't do it all in 1 year. We just don't have those kinds of pockets. And so
mhm,
let's go out and let's digitize. Let's learn how to manage data. Let's integrate a quality system into one place. Not
mhm,
only is it super practical, but it's effective in selling what we do. And how do you ensure traceability control? So, obviously, when I took the company, getting through an audit back then, so a NADCAP audit, for instance, was a huge deal because we were recently minted as NADCAP. And
Oh,
so,
on the tube bending
yeah,
side as well.
no, not on tube bending, but
Oh, and the
on
welding.
welding. So, funny enough, we implemented ProShop first in the weld shop because it's
Okay,
smaller, and so we were
got it,
able
got it.
to say, okay, well, look, that's an easier beta run for us
Mhm,
as a whole.
mhm,
So that's really where we implemented it first. But I would say that's that need to always and when I say data management, it's important to understand we have a lot of inputs we provide clients to. We're provided readiness reports, capacity study, 5-year business plan, real-time operations reports. We want to see everything live. Where is it right now in your shop? When is it going to be done? And so those demands on our company, at that time were pretty manual in
mhm.
terms of, yes, we can build you tools to look that stuff up, but it's not a one-stop shop. It's really a lot of different systems you've got to look up. Some of them more manual than others. I mean, at one point, our weld shop was running on Access databases, in a SQL ERP. And so
Yeah,
you were trying to you could connect those to a certain degree, but it required really an on-site analyst to be able to help. And so we had actually a third party at that time. So, I think for us it was a pretty clear need that we needed a new ERP. We liked our ERP. We had even at the so I'm speaking of Clackamas as the welding site, but the tube bending site at that time was in Linwood. It's now in Everett.
mhm.
But the Linwood site ran a SQL ERP, and they did a pretty good job with that. But the same thing applied there. There was this multiple systems, and even to the point where inspection was pretty disconnected from that system.
Was it
So,
was it paper inspection?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was a clear need, and for us, it was building out that plan. Do we buy an electric tube bender? What do we do, right? And so I think we just kind of looked what's practical first. In the early years, going digital made sense. Let's become efficient. Let's be able to see the environment more, be able to see or output meaningful data that we can make better decisions with.
Mhm.
And then we move into, new equipment purchases and then monitoring the utilization of that equipment. And so that's really where it all came from. And this is all after we had tried to integrate a machine shop, um, that didn't go so well, but we ended up moving the machine shop to the Linwood facility. Um, And so right around the time we did that, that's when we decided to implement ProShop. Um, so that was about 2020. I think 2019 we were talking, and 2020 we actually
Yep,
implemented it.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
So the machine shop was a company that you bought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was another add-on. We really were getting into machining more, or at least saw ourselves doing that. And I think
Mhm,
it's a common story where we bought a company that was highly concentrated with, 2 or 3 clients, and 2 of them really didn't like the acquisition, and there's a lot of risk
Mm-hmm.
for them. So
For sure.
yeah, we took the opportunity to move the machines up north at that point, and you know, this is some pretty hard lessons learned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we unfortunately that didn't go well for us at that time, but I think what we've got since then is better,
Mm-hmm.
and we're more focused on our sort of our core competencies in tube bending and welding, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to be honest, machining too just has a lot more competitors. It is,
It's so competitive.
it
Yes,
is,
indeed.
and there's some
Indeed.
pretty awesome shops out there. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. And
Yeah.
so, I have no problem saying it didn't work for us. But in terms of payback, ROI, we'll make everything back with what we have going on now. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
still pretty confident in our machining capability, and we do still make parts for a couple of clients.
Nice.
So we're just very selective about who we work
Yeah.
with on actual machining. We make sure there's obviously not a conflict of interest too, because like I said earlier, a lot of our shops are or a lot of our customers are machine shops,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, so that was a shop from Kent, Washington,
Mm-hmm.
that we integrated to Linwood, and then obviously we moved to Everett 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So
And a
yeah,
beautiful new facility that I got to go to
yes,
the grand opening of. That was really fun.
yeah, that's right. It's uh, really nice to be there. So
So I want to ask in your decision about the order of investments, right, a digital or an electric tube bender versus ERP or whatever. Um, and you mentioned that when you first, toured the company and got involved, it didn't show well, right? I think you used that term, and it's funny because someone that used to work at the same company you worked at, a guy named Rod, I have quoted
yes,
for years as the wisdom behind the statement that when because he was deeply experienced in supply chain and had been
yeah,
to probably thousands of shops over his career.
yeah,
And he said, I remember it just clear as day. He's like, Paul, when I walk into a company, no matter how much they've cleaned up, like I can just smell the chaos instantly. Like I just
yeah,
know it's back there. I know underneath the surface, they're just a chaotic mess, and they're just barely, they're like a duck, swimming like crazy under the water, but they look smooth on the top.
yeah.
Um, was that part of your rationale of doing that first? Was like giving that more professional appearance, getting rid of all the paper, and of course there's all the internal needs and desire of having data and having
Yeah.
analytics and all those things, but was that also a part of it, like we need to make this place presentable and show customers that they can have confidence in our systems?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, the first impression is the lasting impression. And
Hmm.
if somebody comes into your shop and right away I mean, we could tell each other stories. This is aerospace. Like we talked, it's a cottage industry at one point. I have some crazy stories about shops that I've seen. So L&E was certainly more presentable than some of the stuff I've seen, but Uh, when you're talking about the legend Rod, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah,
Yes.
I have a very, for me, it was also bringing some of my experiences in of places that I went into and immediately felt what you're talking about, that there was a vibe that just didn't seem organized, and then
Hmm.
you could see it on the floor. And a lot of times employees will tell you a lot. Are they happy? Are
Hmm. Oh yeah.
they happy to have visitors, or are they, not trusting the visitors? And I think, I'm I could see that just about anywhere I went. Like, if I felt comfortable walking into a company that maybe I'm gonna go ask questions to an operator,
Hmm.
and I wanted to make sure L&E didn't show that way, and I think we did several times. And I think it was just coming into something new. I was new. Um, the company's in a very small space. It was tight, and it had years of tooling and everything else that you could imagine. So
Hmm.
I think, it just made a lot of sense to say, "Okay, look, if we implement a system where we can actually see what's happening before, we go out and spend, $500,000 on an electric tube bender, right? So
Wow.
I mean, we wanted to just make sure we could see.
Hmm.
And, so we started with, kind of training the team on spaghetti diagram. Just let's do some value stream mapping. How do we flow?
Hmm.
How does the data flow? And we got our team really sort of aligned to that idea, and then, really pushing into, so we didn't even start with, say, a new ERP. We were trying to optimize what we had, and we were just building tools clearly, they were good tools, but they were sort of unsustainable in the sense that you do need a person to manage them all the time.
Right.
And, so anyway, I think it was a combination of physical that we have to show well. People have to feel like our environment's clean and efficient. And also, obviously the data has to flow well. We can't rely on one scrappy buyer
Right.
that's always calling suppliers. That's not really a system. That's a great buyer, but that's not necessarily a system that you can build around. So I think we're just looking at it that way. And I think L&E was growing up and getting larger clients, and really getting a larger client with different expectations always helps you grow and clean up a little bit too. So we were sort of seeing that. And at the same time, um, I don't know when ProShop formed or spun off from its early days. And,
Yeah,
I
it
think
was it was
ProCNC, yeah,
yeah, we sold ProCNC in 2014 and
yep,
ProShop became sort of publicly available right at the
that's
beginning in
right.
2016.
Yeah, so I started seeing you around the time I took the job in 2014, and I was
Right.
very aware because I remember we talked about meeting each other for the first time, and I was
Yeah,
impressed with your
several years
company.
before.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I had already been, sort of had the hook, from that time period, and so when we did start to explore new ERP, that was on my mind, and plus I see you guys at PNAA, and
That's where
and
we
I was
launched in
that's
2016. Yeah.
yeah, so I was very curious, and Um, we also love the idea of local, and we love the idea of something we've seen before that was grown in-house. Um,
Mhm.
Something that's not too big and expensive for us too, in our shop size. So
Yeah.
I think that drove a lot of the interest as well. Um, and then, just I mentioned earlier the number of audits we endure.
Oh,
Um,
I'm sure.
Yeah, even with tubing can be considered, a fabrication sheet metal item. Sometimes we see that. Sometimes we see it as an engineered product.
Hmm.
It just depends. So depending on how it's classified into commodities for our clients, we may see more audits uh, every year. And so I do feel like maybe every other week we have an audit at this point.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah,
It's a
especially
lot.
with welding has a lot of interest, right?
Yeah,
So we
of course.
we host a lot of different clients at welding, and so all of this stuff really just led us to, how can we manage this with more efficiency? How are we going to keep all of this stuff together? And
Hmm.
in our world, w- you know I know, like, a few years ago the Paperwork Reduction Act happened, and so for all of us that apply for DDTC ITAR, we moved from paper to digital, and that was
Hmm.
pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what my point is, I don't think any requirement, at least the sort of bureaucratic administrative requirements for compliance, they're not going to slow down on us, not with cybersecurity being implemented. And so it was a clear need. Long-winded answer to your question, but a very clear need for us. Yeah.
So when you did, um, make the choice and get implemented, ultimately, how many different spreadsheets and databases and other little tools that you'd made kind of got consolidated?
It's hard to answer that. But I would say 5 to 6
Okay. Yeah,
places that you're
that's.
checking, right? Um, and I probably have replaced more at our weld shop. Like I mentioned, we had access databases for welder approval. We had access databases for part histories.
Hmm.
And then they had implemented some. So we were kind of using probably 5 or 6. We even had at one point a virtual machine going to support one
Mm.
of our old databases. So I think Pro Shop altogether between 2 sites, it was over 10 for sure.
Wow.
And you gotta consider document management, um, and
Hmm.
everything else, right? So it
Yeah, that's an area we don't
it's a lot.
talk about as much as we should probably.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, if you do it right, I mean, it's really helped us a lot. So yeah, that I'd say that it definitely consolidated our systems down into,
Wow.
one. And we still do some stuff external, but it's rare. And when we do it, we like, for instance, Net Inspect. Um,
Oh, sure.
we
Yeah.
we obviously we work with ProShop to the best of our ability to really generate an output that's almost ready for Net Inspect right away, right? And
Hmm.
I believe Dave, um, and our team at Lafarge and Egge have gotten that process down pretty efficiently
Hmm.
between, AS 9102 being a focus, in our part planning stage and really building part checks that speak to, form fill at the end of the process.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
really being more efficient in all of our inspection reports. But yeah,
Excellent. Excellent. When went to the team, and I don't know, maybe this is different for the office or the shop floor, how did they respond to getting rid of all the paper?
I mean, I think with every change, obviously, there's a lot up front. So I think once we got beyond the learning curve, it was a very big success. I think we have 39 people. So out of 39 people, I'd say roughly 2 to 3 had some difficulty transitioning only due to the technology skills gap.
Hmm.
It's not so much, but yeah, the feedback was fantastic. I think, it's funny. We did that right after, the industry downturn from the 737 Max crashes, and
Hmm.
I think right before COVID, we were implementing ProShop. So in terms of giving you a clear answer of how people were doing with that
Hmm.
implementation, I think ProShop's implementation was easy relative to the other things we were dealing with at the time. So
Yeah, the aerospace
yeah,
industry had some triple whammies around that time.
yeah, it was like
So
right when 2019, you're standing strong and you're ready and everything's predictable, and then it's not. And then a
yeah,
pandemic on top of that. So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, we were doing everything at that time period. So in a way, we maybe had more time to work on ProShop,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm. Hmm.
because we had some reduced demand during that time. And but of course, um, overall the integration went fine. People were very positive. They're happy to obviously be able to, I mean, just simply put, use a tablet to log in, log out of
Hmm.
jobs. Um,
Right.
and it's really good too at outliers, at least showing us outliers, in any given session. So it helps us troubleshoot at the end. It helps the employees see if we have to troubleshoot one week, maybe the next week's a little more accurate. And over time, we get more and more accurate in terms of logging our time
Hmm.
and tracking what the system wants. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'd love for you to describe, maybe, you don't have to go into too much detail, but just what the process was previously. We quote something, win an order, and then it would like flow through to procurement or planning or quality or
sure,
whatever, and then how that's changed.
yeah, absolutely. So first, for estimating and with receiving information, obviously you know, we had a folder that's secure, um, with obviously only a few people authorized to
Hmm.
review. So we had really, I guess you could say, um, a lot of maintenance being done at the front end, just controlling data. So we'd receive data, receive it from whatever portal, if you will, ExoStar or whatnot. And then we would take a spreadsheet, a model, quote model, and we would run everything through this quote model. Some estimators maybe did it a little different than the others, depending on where they're comfortable.
Hmm.
Once that's done, you generate a bid in a quote sheet, and then you would take that quote sheet and PDF it, or use Excel, or you would use the customer's template, however they want the bid,
Right.
in
Submitted.
what format. So we go through that. Then We would submit that quote. Um, it would be stored in a folder. Again, part of the process, but it's at least it's labeled. It has a quote number, etc. It would be inputted then on a quote database to track it,
Hmm.
right? So once we win, it would be reviewed immediately under contract review. Um, the PO then be inputted into our SQL system. Then they'd go through the planning process, enter the bill of materials, and that would drive some demand signals linear and
Hmm.
backwards through the system.
Hmm.
And so that was really how we were doing things at that time. Once that output is generated, reviewing the schedule, making sure it makes sense, reviewing capacity, and then moving forward. And then you would have a final planning check, and then the work order would be printed. It would hit the ground, and it would be in a queue, ready for when you draw material to it or when the material
Mm.
arrives. So that was really how we were doing things before.
And what was the typical elapsed time for all that work?
It could be a week to two.
A week to 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
And
depending,
what's your typical lead time that you're offering for?
16 weeks. Back then,
Okay.
probably 12 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. Now those are increasing right now. I mean, depending on, not to go too far into the weeds, but depending on which fittings are selected, that's the truth.
Hmm.
When you look at a tube assembly, if certain fittings are selected, I won't name names, but there could be a 2-year lead time unless
Oh
they're in
my
distribution.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So other
Okay.
fittings are selected, you've got a 16-week standard, 16 to 20-week standard. So
Okay.
still pretty long, but
Yeah, but taking up
easier.
2 weeks at the beginning was definitely a big chunk of that total.
That's right. It can very much put you behind real quick, especially if you had a part lead time that increased,
Hmm.
without your knowing, or if it wasn't available in distribution, because we just had such a large delta between factory and distribution lead times. So
Hmm.
yeah,
And then how did that process change once you brought ProShop on and had it fully implemented?
yeah. So when we brought ProShop on, clearly, we still have this issue of multi-factor authentication and customer portals and things like that, right? So we still have to assign custodians at that level for
Of
each
course.
customer. But once we receive that data, ProShop changed things in the sense of control in our folder systems. So the drawings are now per process, uploaded to different folders within the system that our team can see. So you would now the estimates being generated in ProShop on a template that's standardized for maybe what you've done before. So we were able to say, okay, we have a welded tube assembly. It has 3 OSPs. That's its own template versus we have an internal tube assembly that has no OSP. We're going to do everything in house that has its own template. So now we're able to select the applicable template, which even has differentiation by alloy because of different processing requirements. So we're able to generate that estimate quickly. We're able to generate it in PDF format, or we can query the system and generate the spreadsheet that we can input into a customer's um, quote sheet if that's what they want. So we basically took that whole process from what I was talking about earlier, of all this time down to for contract review, for instance, because of the records we've created, it's now taking us 24 to 48 hours, 48 hours max, really, to
Mm.
review the whole contract. But our idea is to get a PO, get it through planning checks, and have it out within 48 hours. And so,
Instead of 1 to 2 weeks.
that's right. Yeah. And
Wow.
I think, in terms of revenues, around the time we implemented ProShop, we were probably around 7 million total.
Hmm.
We've came up like 35% since then. So we are processing more volume and taking on more work. And,
Hmm.
that's one of the bigger things ProShop's offered, is the capacity to do that and to be able to generate it, especially more bids within our
Hmm.
system. And yeah, so it's really helped a lot. And then, like I said earlier, even on the planning side, if we win a PO, as we're generating the part record or the plan for the part, it's routing. we're really thinking about inspection at that point and really building out those part checks that are going to lead to a very easy final inspection process, provided that the parts
Yeah,
passed everything, of course. But
that's so
that's
great.
been very
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah. So even to the point where we upload, we scan most of our tubes if they're not checked on a check fixture, but we generate
Hmm.
scan reports and we upload them directly to the ERP as part of the part check.
Yeah,
So
I remember seeing that really cool machine that you just lay a tube in and it just scans it
yeah,
from all over and
yeah, that's
creates
the
the report.
Accurex. Yeah, so
That's
we
I
went
think
with
it's
the
wild.
optical. Yeah, exactly. It's great.
Super cool.
Um, yeah, and that's a new machine. We're learning how to use that and learning how to use it faster anyway, but it's replacing a lot of the VMM scanning we were doing on our
Yeah.
tubes. So, yeah.
And I guess maybe as a side question, we just recently released the ability to upload inspection results directly into like the first article or in process inspection fields as
Yep,
opposed to just an attachment. And I'm wondering if you've started playing with taking the scan data from that and putting it right into the actual like FAI results page
we do.
or not. Oh,
Yes.
nice. Okay,
I
cool.
like the way I understand it is it's minimal post-processing for our team.
Right.
Everything's really pre-filled at the planning stage, and then once we're done, we're able to upload. I'm not sure if we're uploading, for instance, directly into NetInspect. I think we're
Mm-hmm.
uploading to our own sheets that go into NetInspect, but I'm not
Mm,
100% on that. But
okay.
yeah, it's and the other thing is revision control. I mean, if you imagine the system I just spoke about and managing revisions, it's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it's not so hard in ProShop. We just the PO is always checked against the part, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is always checked against the work order, so we have alignment. So that's another part of this that really paid off for us.
Excellent. Excellent. Um, and then once you're out on the shop floor, you know, I'm, more familiar with, them creating setup sheets and tool lists and things for the machinist to have right there at their machine, which makes their setup process easier. Um, how's that? How does that, just sort of idea of work instructions? Obviously, I love that you're building the quality plan way up front. I think that's just such a best practice in any precision manufacturing environment. But yeah, talk a little bit about work instructions and just how things might have changed on the floor itself.
Yeah, so we've really grown familiar with ProShop tasking to replace some of our work instructions from the past. So we're
Mm-hmm.
really trying to build that out within ProShop, whether it's the
Nice.
machine itself as a resource, a resource that we're our work center,
Mm-hmm.
or just with tasking. And so tasking is going to create screenshots, potentially videos, everything within the system that our operators can review before they perform work. And so even our training and the way we delineate between operator levels is all managed in ProShop.
Oh,
And
nice.
so,
Okay.
yeah, so we've been able to consolidate that particular system. I mean, at one point we had a three ring binder where if you were going to work on a part, you would find that old sheet and you'd make sure you looked at what they did last time, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
that's common. That's
so
common. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it is very nuanced. Some of our setups on our benders. I mean, if you go in and look at some of our benders, some of our older benders, we've actually removed material from some of the arms to be able to perform tighter bends than are,
Oh, wow.
that are able to be achieved on the machine. So we do have some pretty unique setups, and I think again going back to the high mix shop, you know, um, there's obviously preventative maintenance that's managed in Pro Shop. The taskings, the tasking to replace the work instructions managed in Pro Shop as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we don't really have too much outside of it, at least per my understanding. And that's again the effort to optimize the system. Once you have it, what are you going to do with it? Because there is obviously we have to manage it, and
Mm-hmm.
the outputs are great so long as we're being consistent with our inputs. And tasking has been something that's a work in process. We can't replace every task overnight. They have to be well thought out,
Mm-hmm.
and
Absolutely.
clean and clear. And so, yeah, we're continuing that process now. And so I would say, if I had to guess, it's probably like 60 to 70% of the company runs off ProShop tasking. There may be some stuff, for instance, at our clean work centers or pressure tests that may be still off the digital ERP and on the books, but
Mm-hmm.
we're working to integrate all of that. Yeah.
Got it. So in the you're talking about tasking. So just for maybe those that are not really aware of the structure of the modules. So you're talking about taking the task module, building out standardized tasks that you can then train people on in the training module, and then embedding those tasks into part numbers. So someone has a reference right to just one click to this is how we do this thing, and it's standardized across all, any part number that might have that
Yeah,
thing you need to do.
exactly. And I think to the work center. I think we have
Mm-hmm.
tasks that are related to the work center too.
Oh, nice,
And
perfect.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's really the big one. Just how do you manage that machine on
Mm-hmm.
the general side, and then obviously part specific, you're going to go into more detail.
Got it.
But the general setups and general PM, everything else, that's going to be handled more on the work center side. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
but
certainly on
yeah,
the PM side, that makes total sense.
that's a
Um,
flexible system, and again, that's another system we replaced a big Excel spreadsheet with training level, right? For us, with all of the training you do, I mean, starting with like swaging and different
mhm.
swage tools and how you manage that. That went from an Excel spreadsheet to now a clear, hey, if you are an operator level 3 with Lafarge and Egge, you're going to have the ability to swage. You're going to have the ability to finish the ends on parts, to tube bend, whatever it is. And so we'll be able to
Mm.
see that right in the pro shop. Furthermore, show it right to the auditor when they ask you, how do you know your people are competent and capable? So,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, that was actually going to lead to my next question. Um, so obviously you down at Clackamas, you're NADCAP. Do you do NADCAP welding also in Everett?
No, no, we
Okay,
we
just down
do,
in Clackamas.
zero welding in Everett, yeah. There may be
Okay,
the
okay.
occasional need. I mean, we
Sure,
have a
sure,
welder
sure.
that we can work on tools, but yeah, Clackamas is
Yeah.
100% of our
Okay.
welding.
All right.
Yep.
And then tube bending is not an ad cap, but it is something that customers audit frequently. And then you guys are
Yes.
AS9100, right?
Yep. AS9100, and then, with tube bending, we are definitely on certain, QPLs like Bombardiers, right? So there are
Mm-hmm.
some clients who have more requirements for tube bending than others. And so, while
Got
it's
it.
not considered a special process, um, it is a QPL item, and so we are audited maybe a little bit more from certain customers than others.
Yeah, yeah. And how generally, since you get audited apparently every other week or so, which is crazy, how have auditors and customers generally responded to, what you built there, having everything all in one system?
I mean, the system's very easy to audit, and I think that aspect, our auditors coming in and asking for something and having it with a couple of clicks has just been a lot easier for us. So we get a lot of compliments.
Nice.
It's made the process easier. It's increased our capacity to do it where it's not so overwhelming to prepare for, a 4 or 5 day audit. And so, yeah,
Wow, some of them are that
it's went
long,
over
huh?
quite well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So because we have 2 sites, it may be that there'd be a day or 2
Got
spent
it.
at Clackamas and a day or 2 spent in Everett. But,
Of
you know,
course, of course.
some days sometimes they're half day, sometimes they're 1 day, just depends. But ultimately, we haven't met an auditor yet that doesn't like it. So
Hmm.
I think that's a good thing. Or it said,
That's
auditors are not necessarily shy about their feelings and
yes,
what you're doing. And
absolutely.
so if they're giving you compliments on your system, that's great. And I mean, for us, it just, like I said earlier, it's very practical. It makes a lot of sense to combine, um, really,
Sure,
the
sure,
QMS
sure.
with our operating system, or sorry, our MRP. Yeah.
And you guys are running the same system across both sites, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
So
not
as a
doing
matter of
two
fact,
different systems.
yeah, we use your forecasting. So, loading expected POs or work orders into our system. So we're able to communicate with our weld shop through ProShop. And so we
Nice.
use, there's a query they run and they can look at every weld op that's scheduled in our system and they can load every one of those operations into their expected system. So, they'll load expected POs for those welded tubes early.
Oh
And
yeah. What is that? There's like scenarios or something. It's called
yeah,
build
that's right.
scenarios or something like that.
It's yeah, it's they can run build scenarios, everything. So that's really important for capacity modeling and giving them, if we're giving them a clean schedule for 6 months to a year, that's going
Hmm.
to be, 40% of their capacity planning.
Mm,
And that's very helpful for them if, deciding who they want to bring on, which welders you want to train, and which processes, because obviously welding requires approval for process and alloy,
mm-hmm.
um, even
Yeah.
things down to wall thickness, and weld type, right? So just about everything requires a third party exam of the welded product. So yeah, it's great for them to be able to have that kind of insight into hey, 40% of your capacity is probably going to go to your sister company.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and now you get to see all of that.
Hmm.
And
That's
so
cool.
that's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a unique situation.
yeah. And we don't
Very
even,
cool.
we don't see that. We actually created the query and we post the query every day, but
Mhm.
our welding team grabs that from Clackamas and then they just load if they need to. So
Got it.
yeah, that's
Yeah, and
been
for those not familiar with the geography, you're
yeah,
3 hours away, 3.5, 4 hours, depending
yeah.
on traffic, maybe sometimes
Depending on
more.
traffic, I mean, it should be probably 2 hours and 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, yeah,
With no traffic. I've made it in that time. No, not anymore.
yeah. Maybe in the middle of the night you could do that. Um,
Clackamas is, yeah, just out southeast Portland, basically. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Very cool. Um, Well, I think I heard your calendar dinging. You probably have something coming up in a few minutes or in a couple minutes here. So I'll just maybe start wrapping up the questions. Um, this show is called Manufacturing Transformed, and what we hope to communicate is that ProShop can be a really transformational system and help companies, have a major transformation in the way they operate and the results they get from that. Do you think that's a fair way to state, sort of what it looked like pre Pro Shop and what you guys are doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Pro Shop to me is, it's aiming for efficiency, which is really what we want. And so, if I look at today without Pro Shop, I don't have a good efficiency metric like I have in the value add dashboard in ProShop right now, where I can take efficiency for the last year from our direct labor staff and I can apply that to our capacity model. So I think just with all of the information we have to manage, I mean, we have, like I mentioned earlier, um, so many requirements to hit for customers. We have to control,
Hmm.
sensitive IP. Um, we have to control our approvals, our training. All of it is being handled really in ProShop, and I think that's pretty remarkable. Um, and for us, we look at obviously Kaizen and we take it seriously. Um,
Hmm.
so we're looking at ProShop too. What is it going to have in the future, right? I mean, what are your what kind of add-ons do you have in the future that make us more efficient? And so I think that's
Sure.
exciting too. Is that we'll be able to grow together, and we feel like we got in pretty early. We're learning more, so yeah, I would say your statement's very fair. We're we just have more predictable outputs from the system, and we're
Mhm.
more confident in our capabilities to process information.
Yeah. Awesome. And it sounds like you've had some really healthy growth in the last few years too. So on the
Yes.
revenue side, top line side, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been great. We have our challenges like everybody, and aerospace is pretty
It's
wild
a
for
hard.
small businesses right now. So
Yeah,
Yeah, we're getting
definitely
by
not
though.
boring. Yeah.
It's not boring. We're not
No.
complaining. We're grateful for what we have and grateful for awesome clients, and just continuing to grow. I just it's critical for us right now to continue, like I said earlier, diversifying into different, clients in different industries. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, yeah, right on.
Okay, very good. Well, we appreciate being a partner along the way with your growth and everything you're doing down there. Um, if people are intrigued, which they very well might be, because high-end tube bending is not an easy thing to find necessarily, how would they reach out and learn more about Lafarge and Egge?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You could send an email to info@lafargeandegge.com or visit us at our website at lafargeandegge.com. And
And
that's,
would you just spell
it,
that out for people that aren't
yeah, I was going to
don't have the
say, I
link?
better spell that one. Yeah. It's LAFARGEANDEGGE.com.
Okay.
And so that's
Oh,
info at
right.
lafargeandegge.com. Yeah. Sorry
Okay.
for that.
And I'll make sure the link is on our website page. So
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
awesome, Brian. Well, thank you very much for spending this time with me. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank
It
you,
was
Paul.
it, when we scheduled this, I didn't even really put the two and two together that you and I go back to uh the mid 2000s, 2000s, 7 8 kind of time frame.
Yeah.
That was early when ProShop was still being conceived and designed and built, and Celthera Marine went our very first customer ever besides ProCNC went live on it in 2009. So that
Yeah.
was those were formative years for us for sure.
No, definitely. I appreciate, being a part of it and appreciate you and the greater network, we're involved with within the Northwest, within Pro Shop. I mean, it's a good ecosystem, and of course, if any of your clients or anybody out there listening to this need precision tubes, you need NADCAP welding, etc.,
Hmm.
come talk to us. We're a fun
Yeah,
company, and we believe in what we do. So yeah,
yeah. Well,
it's a
I do
pleasure.
as well. Knowing you like I do. So we'll be shouting
Yeah,
this from the
likewise.
rooftops. All
Yeah.
right, Brian. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was great chatting with you.
Hey, you too, Paul. Thank you very much.